Hi, welcome to Color Speak. It's Janet Huxley here with my friend that actually needs no introduction in the Christian community, particularly around women who like to read, because I have my friend Francine Rivers with me. She is a best-selling author internationally. She is multi-award winning. She has a gift, my friends, and it's always a delight to have her on the show where we talk about things like her screenplay and her feature film, Redeeming Love, and her myriad titles, which the last was The Lady's Mine. And I think the last time you were on the show, you were getting ready to release that one. So I know we're going to hear all kinds of juicy details about what's coming up and all of the worthwhile endeavors you're a part of. And I just want to say one more thing as I lead up to this, giving you the mic, Francine. What I know about you is that not only are you talented, but you love Jesus such that you are kind and compassionate and involved with his people. So I think that's great. I also call you a friend and a mentor. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you.
It has been a minute since you've been on.
Yeah.
And we both have had a lot of life lived in that time. So bring
Yeah.
us up to speed. What's going on with you?
Well, I'm still writing, but I'm spending a lot more time focusing on my husband because he has Parkinson's from Vietnam, Agent Orange. I think I was trying to think of the date because we were celebrating our 50th anniversary, and he had a collapse and he was taken to the hospital on that day. And it was he ended up having meningitis, but it was a septic meningitis where it's like a cold or whatever, it goes through your system, but then you have to deal with the aftermath.
Mm,
So he'd had Parkinson's for a number of years, but that really impacted him greatly. So right now he's pretty much in a wheelchair. His life is very limited, so he struggles with boredom and trying to figure out what are we going to do and how are we going to handle things. So that's been a challenge. Just the shift of responsibility that I have, and it frustrates him because he wants to help and do things that he used to do very easily,
mm.
so that's primarily what's going on right now.
Well, in his boredom, the next question I have to ask is, has he read all of his wife's novels?
Oh yeah, he was my first editor
Oh,
for
he
all the
was.
books.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He'd have to listen to all the scenes. I'd brainstorm with him in the morning and talk through the story, and then he would get it, and then he would do the editing on it before I turned it into my agent. So
Wow.
he was very involved in my writing career. In fact, I probably never would have sent in my first manuscript if he hadn't told me to.
Oh,
Because
really?
I started writing and I it was really enjoying it. And he came home one day and he said, "Well, why aren't you writing? Why where's the typewriter?" I was using a typewriter in those days. I said, "Well, I finished the book." And he said, "Well, where is it?" I said, "I put it in the closet." And he said, "I don't think somebody's going to come to the door and knock and say, 'Do you happen to have a manuscript in your closet?'" So, that's when I started submitting. And of course, I had a bad agent to begin with. And then I've had a really good one for years. I had Jane Jordan Brown for 25 years. She died of brain cancer.
Hmm.
And when she was in the hospital, she was still concerned about my career.
Wow.
Uh, and we were close by that time. She was a terrific mentor. And then I've been working with Danielle Egan Miller ever since because she was a protege of Jane's. So I've been with the same group for, golly, 45 years, as long as I've been writing.
And what you have, you're in, is it, I can't remember, 30 different translations or countries?
I think it's more than 30.
Wow.
Yeah. The ones I'm thrilled about I think Redeeming Love is in Arabic
Wow.
and Russian and Chinese. So those are the ones that really, really thrill me to be in places that, you can be an evangelist in a way and never leave your home
Mm,
because the books go out.
mm.
So
And I love
Anyway,
that. I love that perspective of evangelizing through storytelling
yeah,
because it just makes me
yeah,
think of one of my favorite verses in Revelation. I think is it 11:22? I always get it mixed up, but it's the one where we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our
yeah,
testimony. And I
yeah,
guess when I was younger, I used to think, oh, unless you're traveling by foot into the Congo or sweltering through the Amazon or living in a mud shack somewhere, you weren't really evangelizing. And that was when the Holy Spirit took me inside and said, you know what? Why don't you revisit Ezekiel? Because,
yeah,
you know, we're all called and equipped, and we need not fear any of our shortcomings because we're wired to do that thing that is
yeah.
to get the message out. So I love that you and I both feel called to that same profession, writing and encouraging people through that. So
Yeah.
it's always
Yeah.
fun to talk about what you're doing. So, for those that don't really understand the process of publishing, Francine, there's so many offerings on self-publishing sites these days. So, when you talk about an agent, you're talking about somebody that has helped you along the way so that you could publish traditionally. And I know that most people are hearing this and going, yeah, well, duh. But I just think there's a lot of talk these days about what the best way to go is. Do you have any thoughts on the way that the industry is progressing toward more indie publishing and avoiding
I
agents?
think I think there are a lot of indie publishing gals now because I have friends that have been in the traditional publishing for years, but they're also going into indie. But
Mhm.
there's so much work to do. I mean, I would not have a clue how to even get started because you have to have the knowledge of how do you set up the book, how, the cover art, how do you market? All that is on the writer when you're indie publishing. Where
Mhm.
with the traditional, the way I've done it is I hand it off to my agent and then I forget about it because she handles everything. I wouldn't have a clue how to make contacts with foreign publishers. So it takes a lot of the heavyweight stuff off of you so that you can concentrate on your writing. But there are gals that I know and guys that I know that they have that left and right brain.
Mhm.
So they're wired differently than I am, so they know how to do all that. And it works really well for some people and for others it doesn't work at all.
Yeah, and I think that's just the nature of who we are, and it is
Yeah.
better for some to go in a different direction. I also think that was
Yeah.
a very gracious answer too, because what I found is, although I laud the fact that there is more of a platform open to people of all walks of life, all ages, all places that
Hmm.
have a story, because we all have a story to tell, while concurrently being alarmed sometimes at the lack of vetting. And so at least agents are going to find the best and they're going to make sure that the integrity, I guess, of publishing remains intact, which,
Well, but the other thing too is that there are writers that go indie and they are so good
mhm.
that the publishers come to them. I think of The Martian, Andy Weir, he published that indie and it just boomed. And I think The Shack started that way too.
Oh,
So
good. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I'm not positive, but I think that there are extremely talented people out there that know how to do the indie work that they have to do, and then they're discovered there. So uh, there are lots, and the people spend a lot of time on the internet and searching for things to read. So it's a good place to be.
Well, and I love that answer too, because obviously I'm an indie publisher,
Uh-huh.
indie writer, and I did really pray about it. And for a while, and as you and I know, I had some things in my personal life I had to deal with, but I was keeping the fire stoked,
Yeah,
by staying on Query Tracker and sending all the things out. And I did have an agent that had my manuscript for a bit and then ended up passing on it. And so then I went to the Lord and I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? So
yeah,
essentially indie publishing, but through a friend of mine who just started her own publishing company. But I didn't have to. I am in the process of getting a cover designer right now, which is
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Francine, I think it's kind of fun. I mean, it's a lot of work trying to find exactly what you're looking for and
Yeah.
trying not to hurt feelings and to convey, okay, well, I had this in mind, and that's not really what I was thinking. At least when you go with somebody that's an in-house for a reputable publisher, I think you get some pretty top-notch talent for cover.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
and they have a committee of people that are working together to design covers.
Mhm.
And I'm terrible with I'm terrible with titles too. I mean, the kind of cover that I would imagine is very different from what they come up with, which is much better than what I would have put on the cover. Um,
That's what I'm
but
looking for. That's what I want right
and
there.
and titles, it's just the Lady's Mine was a title that Tyndale came up with that I
Oh,
really
I didn't
liked.
know that.
Yeah, because I think it was the disinherited is what I was going to call it, which is sort of a downer. But then I thought, well, I really like the lady's mine because it had a double meaning to
Yeah.
it. Saying the lady is mine, but it also had to do with a mine. So that was clever on their part. It's
Mhm.
like I trust them.
I really enjoyed that book. Actually, that was one of my
Thank
favorites.
you.
And I also really like The Masterpiece.
Oh, thank you.
But I think I've read
Well,
mostly everything of yours, and it's all good. Of course, everyone loves Hadassah, was it?
yeah,
Hadassah?
Hadassah, Hadassah.
Yeah, from that,
A
yeah,
Voice in the Wind,
The
The
Voice
Mark
of
of
the
the
Wind.
Lion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, The Lady's Mind, I call that my COVID book because I thought at the time we need to laugh. We're all trapped in our houses and being told what to do, which irked me. Um, and we kept our Bible study going the entire time. We never social distanced. Nobody ever got sick.
Oh, good.
I mean, God protected us. But
Mhm.
I just thought people need some humor. They need some laughter. And so I was able to really have fun with that book. I had so much fun, I had to cut 75,000 words out of it.
You sound like me. That's
It's like
that's me. I have to trim it
continue.
again so much.
It's
Yeah.
like right. And I was just having a great time. But anyway,
I
what do
love
you
that.
do when you're stuck with COVID at home? You're right. You find things to do. So,
Exactly. And especially when
yeah,
you're in a state where they were a little more restrictive than in other
yeah,
states. So,
yeah,
yeah. Isn't that amazing? We got through that time. That was a wild one.
yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, and since we're just talking about publishing, before I go any further, I should probably just throw in my friend Missy has a publishing company. So I wanted to
Oh,
make sure that I was honoring to Light Warriors. That's the name of it when you and I
oh.
were talking earlier, because um, I didn't know that I did that adequately. So, Francine, what are you working on?
Well,
What's your tidbit?
I'm doing a rewrite of a very old book that when I looked at the title, I couldn't even remember what the book was about. And then when I read it, I thought, oh, there are so many missed opportunities in this book. So I basically took the plot, but I've added characters and I've changed the characters that are in it. And it's really about revenge, what revenge does to people, and all the different ways we take revenge. But then it ended up more than that too, because we think that there are all these coincidences in our lives, and I don't believe there are any. And in this story, what I began to notice too is things happen, and God isn't mentioned that much, but as a Christian, you can see how he moves. It's like when we become Christians, you look back on your life and you can see where he was there the whole time. You just didn't recognize it or you turned away from it.
Mhm.
So that's in there too. It's got a lot of mix in there. And it's three main characters. It's a bounty hunter that comes into town, and the sheriff of the town, and the daughter of the sheriff uh, is the woman between. The working title right now is the woman between, because she's between a lot of people without realizing it. And she's also between her faith because her faith is based more on works, doing good works, and not realizing it's a relationship. It's not about working and earning your way. So,
So when you generally when you have a manuscript that you finish, let's say, and the story's
mhm.
done, you don't necessarily know the title, or is it
Oh,
that
well, I have my own working title, but that's not necessarily what it's going to be at the end, like A Voice in the Wind.
right?
I knew with Redeeming Love, I wanted to call it Redeeming Love because the whole story was about redemption.
Hmm.
But very few of my books have the title that I picked. You know,
Really?
yeah, I have a working title. It just kind of it's there. For this one, it was The Gunfighter. Well, it's not really just about a gunfighter. It's about what's happening inside of these people and how God draws them where they are, because there's a backstory to the bounty hunter that has to do with the sheriff and the history behind, and then the clash between them. But then there's the girl between who loves them both. Anyway,
Oh, I like
it's
those kind. Those are so fun.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it's going to be my last Western. I did a lot of Westerns when I started out.
Hmm.
And but I have another idea I'd really like to work on, but I'm going to probably take a break after this one. But I'd love to write a story about a mentor because I think it's so important for women, older women, to mentor younger women. And sometimes it can be a younger woman mentoring an older woman. But I think mentors are extremely important, especially in the faith community.
Hmm. Which is, I think, why you're such a good mentor. Because you've mentored me and you've given me advice, and we don't even know each other that well. So I can
Yeah.
imagine what it would be like for those around you, just from my limited exposure to your kindness.
As long
So,
as I don't lecture, my children would accuse me of lecturing.
well, I'm sure mine would as well. And
Oh,
she probably won't
oh,
watch this. I'll tell you, I got a phone call last week. My youngest said, I want to get a dog. I said, really? No. I said, you have a dog, and that dog is here at the house while she has an internship during the summer. So anyway, long story short, I said, just as long as you know, I'm going to support any decision you make.
yeah,
But my boundary line is this. I'm not taking one more animal into this house. And I don't want that to mean that then therefore I lose your company because it's all or nothing.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
I know
of a
when
lecture.
we have a German Shepherd, a Ranger, and we call him our ADHD dog because we've had five German Shepherds, and this one has more energy than any dog we've ever had. And when we lost Sarge, our previous German Shepherd, Rick really missed him and wanted another dog. Well, of course, after we got Ranger, that's when everything happened to Rick. So guess who got to do the training?
Oh, I know this story.
Guess who's
Well,
and
yeah.
I tell Rick, I say, you do realize that if this dog lives a full German Shepherd life, we've never had one live longer than 12, 13 years.
Mhm.
I'll be 86 if I live that long. So I've talked to our older son. I said, if anything happens to me, you will take Ranger, won't you? You will welcome him into your home. So we have that agreement going on because I wouldn't want him turned over to, a shelter or something like that. Your animals become your family,
Yeah, they
you
do.
know.
Yeah, we have a grouping of four kittens at the back porch right now because their mom just disappeared one day, and so
Oh,
we're the
yeah,
mom. So
yeah,
it's all the little creatures when you have Holy Spirit in you, you have to love His creatures, all of them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and we also have a German Shepherd, and she's a little nutty, to be honest. Like she kind of will go in circles sometimes, or like her tail will whack out and take my plant out, or she
Yeah.
she has a lot of
Yeah,
energy.
Ranger has, we call them the zoomies. He has the zoomies in the evening where he'll be running full out in the house,
Yeah.
down the hallway and back into the family room and into the living room and and it'll last for maybe 5 minutes and then he's done. It's like, okay, I've got all that energy out of me. Now I can relax.
That's good.
We just sit there and laugh watching him. He's a lot of fun, but he's also the kind of dog where you take him to the groomer and then they tell you don't ever bring him back again.
Those are the
And
kinds
the
that I
vet
have usually.
and the vet gives me drugs.
Oh,
Here, give him some sedatives before you bring him in.
yeah. We have
Yeah.
to give sedatives to my daughter's puggle, which is a pug and a beagle together, just to
Uh-huh.
get her toenails clipped because she gets
Yeah.
berserk in there. She does not like to have her nails clipped at all.
Yeah.
I get,
Well, Rangers only had his toenails cut twice in 5 years, and both times he was unconscious. He was having his teeth cleaned at one point, and he had to have a minor surgery in the other case. I just figure he'll wear them out,
yeah,
running around the yard and all that. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's so true.
yeah.
My children's dogs like to wear them out on my floor, so I have,
Oh, yeah,
and we're about ready to get part of it sanded down again. So I don't know what we're gonna do after that. We're gonna have to
yeah,
really good.
yeah,
So anyway, I guess I digressed. I brought us out into the weeds, but my question to you also, like one of many, is you obviously are the kind of person that has stories in your head all of the time, and
mm,
you just want to get them out. Do you feel like you'll ever run out of stories? Do you feel like as long as you're alive, you're going to be writing? Because I don't know if we've talked about this before, but you know who Herman Wouk is? He wrote the Pulitzer
yes,
Prize winning King Mutiny.
yeah,
I always love talking to my classes when I taught high school literature. I love telling them about Herman Wouk
mhm.
because he was writing, like he was still publishing at what was it, 104 or something?
Oh, wow,
And I think now that's the way I want to live my life is fresh and
yeah,
flourishing till the end.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
guessing
as a
somebody like you will be the same way, never run out of stories.
Well, I know my agent always says, writer writes. You have that in you. That's your calling, unless God calls you to something else later on, because as you get older, you might get called to a different kind of thing. But I know I think about short stories or novellas and blogs, just getting thoughts out and what I'm thinking or what's impacting me, that kind of thing. So I may not always write novels. I've always,
Mm,
because writing was so important to me earlier in my career before I was a Christian. I've always asked God that if it ever became too much, became like an obsession again, that God would take it away. So I never take it for granted I'm going to write another novel.
mm.
But I think that he called me to be a writer, so he'll be telling me what kind of writing I'm going to be doing. You never know.
I love that you said, wow, it's kind of makes me self-reflective because I understand how writing can become an obsession. I
Yeah.
understand how, just having delved back into it, and it's interesting because I don't know if I ever told you this. I have a master's in journalism. I don't know why I did that. I did it because it just seemed the right thing to do, I suppose, and I wanted to get into journalism, but it wasn't because I necessarily loved writing. I loved
Yeah.
revealing truth. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
the Lord told me to write my first memoir, or yeah, I guess now it's going to be my first because there'll be another. Um, I felt like it was the weirdest thing. I thought I didn't really ever see myself as a writer. And it seems silly that I would have gotten a degree in journalism, but I didn't see myself as a writer. But once I did, and the Lord opened up that door for me, like you, I understand. I feel like it can be an obsession. I can see how sometimes I get up in the morning and my heart's beating fast, and I think, I need to get to write. Oh, I don't want to go on that walk, or I don't want to participate in that family event because I just want to write. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think those of us that are have that in our blood get that, where
Yeah.
it has there's a danger zone in there that you feel like you don't want to do anything else but write.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a you are a writer, but that's not your identity. It's what you do. It's what God's called you to do. But you can get mixed up in it and
Yeah.
think that's who I am, and without it, who am I?
Mm,
It really, I know it really was an obsession for me because I thought I could just take off and go in the woods with my typewriter at the time and just write. And it was Rick that confronted me about that because we had three children. He said, if you had a choice, I wonder whether you would just leave us and go. And I thought,
mm,
there are times when I think about that. I think the gal that wrote Cross Creek did that. The
mm,
Yearling, the one that wrote The Yearling. But it can be too much. And it's like that. I think when I gave my life to Christ, he very quickly resorted my priorities because I could not write for about 3 years.
mm,
And it was by the end of the 3 years, I didn't care if I ever wrote again because I was so in love with Jesus
mhm.
and reading the Bible that I didn't care. And then that's when he said, okay, here's the story you're going to write. And that was Redeeming Love.
Mm,
But, it was like, wait a minute, who's your God? Who's your idol in your life here? Writing was too important. It has to be the Lord first.
yeah, absolutely. And you could
Yeah.
be no good for him if you're not willing to spend time with him.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that. I mean, the last 2 years, I didn't want to write at all. So
Yeah.
what I'm about to publish, I was fully edited 2 years ago, as you know. So I just feel like I needed to have that time to spend with him and to heal and to do the things that I needed to on my end. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's great
And
advice.
it's never wasted time. It's
Yeah,
never
right.
wasted time. It's
Mhm,
God's preparing you and working you through things to prepare you for what you're going to do later on.
mhm,
Because a lot of times, there is one title I did have, and the Shofar Blue. And
mhm.
at the time, I had no clue what a shofar was. I thought, what
Ah,
is this title? But I knew it had to do with the church. But it was a couple of years before I even tackled that book because I really had no idea what God wanted me to do with it. So we're always in preparation process. God's working in us in ways that we may not even recognize,
mhm.
walking us through things that we would never choose for ourselves, but bringing us through for something better on the other end.
Right. And I think
Yeah.
that in terms of the good part of that, getting back to what you said about obsession, it's really just getting ahead of him, right? I
Yeah.
mean, instead of just relaxing in his plan, enjoying his company, and letting the fruit of that be whatever comes out of you, whether it's writing or music or whatever it is that you're called to do.
Yeah.
I think that that's great advice to kind of chew on. And then the other thing about the shofar is I have a shofar. I
Yeah.
recently got it. And the funny thing is and it's just a little one. I'll show you. It's really funny. It's just a little one. But my grandson loves to come over and
And
try to
blow it.
blow this. And I said,
Yeah.
oh, I just think the only way that we can do that, I think, is just to kind of make a noise yourself through it. So I don't know how powerful it is. So there's that. And then I don't know, felt like I had to have one. And I do on the other side of where I'm sitting, I do have your book. And that's one of the books I haven't read yet of yours. So
Yeah.
it just reminds me, I need to get on it.
I got so many letters about that book. So really from people that were in ministry, because it's about, the whole question that started that book is what is a church?
Mm,
Well, it's not a building, it's the people.
mhm,
And I think a lot of times we forget, we look at the building, we look at the campus, we look at all the stuff around it, but it's the people, our living stones that build that structure, that we're a body of Christ. We're not a building.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, I
and
think
unless the Lord
the
builds the
opposite.
house, it's not going to stand either. So it has a lot to do with a very ambitious pastor who is the son of a pastor and how he loses his way. He forgets what it's all about and how God is working on him and people around him.
Hmm.
So,
Sounds like another great story from a woman full of stories.
well,
Did you were you when you were a kid, were you writing stories even as a young girl?
well, I knew I was going to be a writer. I just didn't know what kind of writer I'd be because I did not like to read.
Hmm.
I was on my bike and hiking and doing swimming and doing all that kind of stuff. But when I went to college, I majored in English with an emphasis in literary writing and minored in journalism because
Oh,
I knew I would be a writer, but I didn't know what kind of writing I would be doing. And I will say I didn't learn to write in college. I learned by reading. And it
oh.
was actually Rick's family, his mom, and they're all voracious readers, and it was his mom that would pass me books, historicals and romances and gothics and all kinds of stuff. And I thought, wow, this is what I'd like to write. And it was reading some stories, and I thought, I think I could do as well as that. And Rick said, well, go for it. So I did what I call a Western Gothic romance because it was combining the genres that I liked, and that was my first book, and it was submitted 13 times before it published, but I happened to get into the market at a time when they were looking for writers. But it was so much fun writing that thing, I got hooked. And then that's where, I was writing in the general market, steamy historical romances, And that's when I was really hooked on it. And
Mhm.
then God did a work on me because I came to Christ in my late 30s and he took the writing away until I understood that I didn't need the writing, I needed him. He's
Mhm.
priority.
Yeah.
Changed my life, changed my career, changed everything.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I love how he
Yeah.
always takes everything that he's wired us to do and makes it for him when we
Yeah.
let him. And then it becomes something that we flourish in. And I'm still figuring that out. I mean, I don't know. I like to write. I hope that I could. I will never be able to possibly complete in my lifetime all that you have, but I hope that I can continue on this. I hope that this kind of new feeling that I have to write and to do that kind of thing. Continues me down a path where I have more creative imagination like you. But I think I'm so empowered by just feeling like you. I want to tell a story that's redemptive and
Yeah.
it encourages people. And I think that's my biggest disappointment with literature that's out there nowadays. I don't know how much reading you get a chance to do now. And I will say that I was just the flip. I was the opposite of you. I didn't like to write. I didn't think I could write. I rolled my eyes when I was required to write, but I love to read. And my
Yeah.
summers, when we would go to the library and we would check out books, and in San Diego, we could get, I can't remember if you read 3 books, you got a state sticker. Well, that summer I was going to get all
Well,
50. I was bound and determined, and it was so fun and exciting. So now when I started writing on my own, I thought, this is so weird. I never ever imagined that I would be the one creating for people to read. So anyway, that's fun. But now I've forgotten what question I was going to ask
well,
you.
we were talking about reading, and I read a lot now. I'm enjoying it, and I think I really credit with my in-laws with giving me a love for reading because my mom and dad read nonfiction. My dad and mom built their own house from the foundation up, so they were reading how to do that, how to construct a house. And my mom was a nurse, so she was reading nursing journals and medical books, and my dad was a police officer. And they actually were writers because my dad had I think his first heart attack when he was about 39 or 40, and he had to be at home in bed rest for 3 months. So what did he do in 3 months? He wrote a book. He wrote The Officer Speaks in Public about police officers speaking in public. And my mom she was an avid journalist. She would write a journal. When my mom passed away, I said, I don't care about any of this stuff. I want her journals.
Mm.
Because we'd be on a trip and she'd have a steno pad and she'd be writing notes about what she was seeing and observing and what we were doing and that kind of thing. So I was seeing them writing. So I think that had impact on me. But the reading later, I mean, I really enjoy reading. I like to read a nonfiction and a fiction book at the same time. I have had less time to read lately because of just the circumstances that we're in, but I I used to read about 50 books a year and that 25 sometimes. I might make 25 this year if I really push it from
Yeah.
now to December. But I really enjoy reading because every book you read, people say, well, who's your favorite author? Well, whoever I happen to be reading at the time, because you're getting into the mind of that person and you're getting to know that person through their writing. So I really enjoy it.
I do too. I know, I
Yeah.
remember what I was going to tell you too in regards to all of that. It's shocking to me how much I can love to read and then come across a book that is so disappointing. And
Oh, yeah.
and it's because I just have to be so careful in terms of well in straying outside sometimes of Christian work because then you have all the stuff that's brought in that you don't need to hear, the sexual content, mostly
Yeah.
graphic stuff. But I was shocked one time when I was online and on Facebook, someone recommended a book. And I thought, oh, that's great. I typed, I can't wait to read it. I'm so excited. I really need to hear from people about what recommendations they have because
Yeah.
I don't think you can always discern from the cover what's inside of it.
Yeah.
So I read this book. It was actually, I didn't even read it. It was worse than that. I was listening to it on Audible and I was in my garden gardening, and I would hear things that I just like almost I couldn't even like my hands are muddy. I don't want to hear this, but it was actually sexual details between women. And
Oh,
I, what a member of the church recommended this to me. How is it that we are so far gone on literature?
yeah,
Which is why every time, and I rarely turn on the television anymore, but when I do, and I'm just thinking, oh, I'm in the mood to watch something fun, like hearted a movie, why is it that 99% of it looks demonic?
yeah,
The covers these days on books look demonic, and the subject matter is concerning. And so, when you find somebody like you, it's so good to be able to, so refreshing to be able to count on a story without any hidden agendas, nothing that's going to surprise or pop up for us. And I pray that we're headed toward a day where more of those offerings are available
yeah,
instead of
yeah.
what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, I go largely on recommendation. I know Rick will say, "Where did you ever get the idea to read that book?" Like I read a book about earthworms, and my kids were like, "What are you reading, Mom?" I said, "It's absolutely fascinating. Do you know how earthworms can change the whole environment?" But then my sister-in-law recommended a book, and it was one I read recently called The Rent Collector.
No.
I can't remember the author, but it's an outstanding book. Because you are literary, you will like it too, because there is a lot about literature in this book. It's about a young woman and her husband and child who live in the dump in Cambodia. They
Wow.
make their living in the dump, going through and recycling and pulling things out to sell. But it's a great story.
I would like to read that. The last one that I read was this one. I actually was in Oregon hiking a couple of weeks ago with friends, and we we stopped in a Goodwill because one of them had this great idea. Hey, why don't we go see if we can find dresses in Goodwill, and then we'll
Yeah,
go out into the woods and we'll take pictures. And I said, this sounds great. I'm in. So we
yeah.
did this Goodwill in Oregon, and I found goodies, and one of them was this. It's called The Beekeeper of Aleppo. And it,
Oh,
um,
yeah,
it was one of those stories that was just so fascinating about fugitives from Syria and what they're
yeah.
going through in real time. And the woman that wrote it had some experience. So it's very authentic. But those kinds
Yeah,
of
well, and then
pieces,
you're in another country, you're in another culture, and you're learning
yeah.
about other people. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I love that. And talking about literature, one of the things that just really griped me when I taught it was having to teach because everybody lauded he was so great. Hemingway. Hemingway had no redeeming anything to his writing. It was different. And I get that it was innovative and the fragmented sentences and the stream of conscious thinking and all that. But ultimately, there was never a happy ending in any of his books.
yeah. Well, and not in his life either.
Yeah. And I think, why would you want to
Mm.
read that? The whole,
Yeah,
all the creation cries out for
yeah,
the redemption story. And all of ours can be a microcosm of that
yeah,
in partnership if we just allow it. And instead, we're wasting our time writing and reading junk, garbage.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's a redemption story in The Rent Collector.
Ooh, I'd
Yeah.
love to read it. Well, if you're
It's
recommending
not
it, I'm going to read it.
necessarily Christian, but I think that you're
Yeah.
right that God builds that into
Yeah.
us. I mean, it's like He builds into us that there is an afterlife.
Hmm.
That we just know it. It's there, but people don't know how to get there unless they're in Christ. There's only one way to have heaven, that we're all souls that are going to live
Hmm.
somewhere forever, but people don't know that there's only one way to go to heaven. So,
It's the only way that makes sense, but they don't
yeah,
take the time to investigate, which is why I think it is sometimes helpful to look at other world religions so you can see how despairingly
yeah,
evil and on the other side they are. The only thing that makes sense is what the
yeah,
Bible tells
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And so even for
Well,
the
every other religion in the world is earning their way and so,
right.
trying to climb the ladder to get there through their own efforts. And it's already been done.
Hmm.
It's already accomplished.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
So the next story that you've already intimated, you've given us a little bit of the details about it, your Western. Uh,
Mhm.
when is that going to be out?
I have no idea.
Is that the one you were telling me you were working on in, wait, March?
Well, I don't even remember when I started this one, but I know that I will probably have more revision work to do, I'm sure, when I turn it in, which always, that helps me because they can go in and see it from an objective point of view, and they're not just looking at the line editing type stuff. They're looking at structure and characterization and all that. So I'm very willing to hear what they have to say and to work on it. But I think their goal was 2026,
Mhm.
but it depends on when I can finish the project
Yeah.
and have it ready to be published. So
Yeah.
I never take that for granted. Never take that for
Well,
granted.
and I
It's
think,
like every book you write, I think, and it's whatever made me think I could be a writer. It's like starting all over again. You are starting all over again with a new project, but as a writer, you're never an expert. You're always learning with every project.
yeah,
So
I
it's
see
never
that.
a sure thing. Yeah, never a sure thing.
And yet you're just the most successful person I know that's done it. So I just, my hat's off to you because
Thank you. By the
it's
grace of God.
it's really awesome. Well, and I think what I'm hearing from you too is that no matter where you are, whether you're a seasoned veteran like yourself, Francine, or you're like me, you're just starting out, revision, 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 revision. And
Yeah,
I will say I have been asked to speak to authors before where I say the same thing. I said, if you're not willing to look at your manuscript to the point that you literally think if you read it one more time, you're going to throw up. Like,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
so nauseating sometimes. You just want to, okay, you've done it and you want to move beyond it, but then it's imperative you go back and just keep, refining,
yeah,
refining. And I always say I'm an okay writer, but I'm a great editor because
yeah,
it
yeah. Well, I think I wrote Redeeming Love 7 times, at least 7 times. Rick read it the first 5 times and he said, "Okay, I can't read this anymore."
that's hilarious.
But yeah, but it's, I also have to put it down, which I've done right now. I've turned the manuscript over to my daughter, who's a very good editor. And I'm just trying not to think about it at all for a couple of weeks and reading and enjoying reading because when I go back in, I'll have a fresher eye for it. Where if you do another rewrite right after a rewrite, it's not going to be new stuff. It's going to be a rehash of what you think should be there, but you won't see it with fresh eyes. Kind of that palette, clearing your palette, I think they do.
Yeah, I totally track with you on that. I
Yeah,
have to, and I'm like you, and you should see, I have books everywhere. I got that
yeah,
from my grandmother. I'm a book hoarder, and I keep all of my special ones in special places. And recently,
yeah.
I got a chance to remodel, and I created my first legitimate library for the first
Oh,
time
nice.
in where our piano is. And so I've just been lovingly putting my books on shelves and thinking, oh my gosh, I have way more than I thought. I just still need to donate.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's a good time being able to hold on to all of those things and have them available for when you're in a mood, when the mood strikes, when you
yeah,
just feel like you have to read and you have to have that palate cleanser.
yeah,
For me, it's the same way with anything. And I'm sure it is for most
yeah,
people. Yeah. And I know
yeah,
you told me once you used to take walks when you were writing.
yeah,
It's helpful.
yeah. I haven't had a walk and I can't remember when. I spend so much time in the yard.
That
Uh,
was one of my
I
questions for you.
Yeah, how you carry that thing that tells you how many steps you take, because I think everybody was into taking 10,000 steps a day. And I wore it for a while. Well, one day I was just doing stuff around the house and what I normally have to do and working in the yard. And I did 12,000 steps. And I thought, I don't need to take a walk. I'm taking plenty of walks right around here, just doing what I have to do. So it kind of took the guilt out of, I've got to do that 10,000 steps. So,
Well,
yeah.
I'm excited. Do you want to talk briefly about what you're doing in your yard or
Oh, well, when we moved into this house, it was a fixer-upper. Everything was overgrown. We have redwood trees behind us, and they were all down, grown down onto the ground, and there were dead junipers everywhere. The lawns were thistles. So I thought, give me 4 years to restore what should have been there. Whoever laid it out first, we're the fourth family that's owned this house, and whoever laid it out did a great job of laying it out.
Mhm.
So it was just a matter of taking things out, replanting, bringing things back. Like the vineyard had been left to go. So that took about 3 years to get it producing and looking right. I want to have nice, neat rows, no weeds, no suckers. And that takes time, because there's 13 rows out there to work on. So it's just do a little bit each day, work at it, and it's been fun. So there's less for me to do now, but the vineyard is always going to be a challenge, I think. I told Rick, I said, when I get to be 80, I think I'm going to need more help.
Well, that's what I was loving hearing about your vineyard earlier, and that's why I was kind
Yeah,
of broaching the subject with you because a vineyard
yeah,
is a lot. And I was just telling Francine, I feel like that's one of her protagonists because
yeah,
just caring for the vines and then seeing the Lord as part of that in His Scripture. And I shared
yeah,
with Francine earlier that I had felt the same way when I was taking care of goats and would have a brand new
yeah.
baby goat, and it was a perfect little thing, and my kids loved it. And I thought, it would have been terrible to live a long time ago and feel like you had to sacrifice
Sacrifice it.
you for your own sins. How
Yeah,
horrible, how mortifying that would have been when you love an animal to
yeah,
to recognize the things that you have done, that
yeah,
you would have to put that on that animal that you helped bring into the world. And it just really opens up the picture of
yeah,
our lamb and
yeah,
and your vineyard as you were describing earlier. So I think that
yeah,
would be a
yeah.
story.
Yeah, that's what I like to do what I call earth psalms because I think that everything in nature, God has put lessons in there.
Mhm.
And you can see him in it, if you look closely enough. I know we were taking a drive down the coast and you look at the cypress trees and how they're shaped going away from the sea from the wind. And I'm thinking, well, that's the Holy Spirit and how the Holy Spirit is gradually shaping us over the years. So we're being transformed.
Mm.
You're not the tall, scraggly trees going everywhere. They're just beautiful, almost like waves coming off the sea.
That is such a beautiful picture, Francine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you live in an amazing area. I
Yeah.
love the redwoods. I love the way
Yeah.
they smell. And when I was hiking in Oregon a couple of weeks ago, there were redwood there. And
Yeah.
I would just touch them and just feel God. You just feel closer to God.
Yeah. It's a lot of beauty around here. We were going to move back. We were thinking about moving back to Tennessee when our daughter and son-in-law were moving back there. They wanted us to move in with them. And so we offered on three different places that would work for two families together. And for whatever reason, each one fell through. And we thought, well, that's a very clear message from God that we're not to go anywhere. And, it's been difficult because the kids are now scattered all over the country and our grandkids, and we're
I
still
know
here
that
in
one
California.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we live in a really beautiful area. I mean, half an hour one way, you're at the Pacific Ocean, redwoods around us, north of us are the giants, and you've got desert lands here, got farmlands, all kinds of stuff. So it's a really beautiful area. Crazy state. It's a crazy state.
I know
Yeah.
that too well. But
Yeah.
when I Yeah, yeah. My siblings and my mom still own property in California. I know a
Yeah.
little bit about how crazy it is. My best friend still lives there. But I do love to go home because it's just always shocking to me now living in Kansas City for so long. Everything is so spread out. But in San Diego, you could be downtown having a taco in the morning, I guess, and then by the afternoon, you're on the top of a mountain you've hiked, and then
Yeah.
the backside, you're coming down the backside through the old mining town of Julian. And my friend and I were hiking when there was snow on the ground, so we stopped into this little mining town and had hot pie and coffee, and then the next thing you know, you're over. It's just
Yeah.
like there's so much happening in such a short period of time, and it really
Yeah.
is lovely.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
They just, they need a different inmate running the asylum.
Yeah. Well put.
Yeah.
Well put.
So,
Oh,
well, it's always a pleasure to speak with you and to catch up. It's been a minute, so I was
feel the
delighted
same way. Yeah.
you came back on the show. And this time we're like I told Francine, I said it's no longer audio only.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I told
Yeah, I know. I'm at this stage where I look in the mirror and I think, who is that old woman in the mirror? I don't even know who she is.
me too. I'm
Because,
like, wait, I've
well,
changed a lot. I
you
used to,
know,
in these podcasts when I started, it was 2020 and it was audio for a long time.
uh-huh.
I literally would do them with a towel on my head after getting out of the shower,
Yeah.
after I had worked out in a swimsuit one day. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh gosh, this going over to to video is going to be a little challenging. That means I actually have to put my makeup on.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
I will wait with great anticipation for your Western coming out and the novels that you have cooking in your head already,
oh,
because
thank you.
I know
Thank
there are
you.
a lot of them. And, we'll keep you and Rick in our prayers.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May your
Yeah.
house be just surrounded with angels.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll need all the prayers that we can get. We're having our 60th high school class reunion this month.
How fun is that?
And so they're all coming up. They're all coming up here. Not all. I mean, we've lost a lot, but we have about 40 people that will be coming up here. And we're the kind of class, we grew up in a small town in California, Pleasanton, about 3,500 people. So some of these people, I went from kindergarten all the way through high school, and Rick came late in fifth grade. So we've known each other for years, and we've had a reunion almost every year since we left high school, which is very unusual. I mean, my kids don't have that connection. I think a lot of the young people don't have that kind of connection the way people did back in the old days.
I'm also tracking with you on that one. I just think
Yeah,
Um, you know my story. I lost a boyfriend that I had from high school and into college, my Rick, and he was killed in a crash. And I always, when I hear a song that would play, or just a lot of the from the early 1980s, it just
yeah,
reminds me of a very carefree time in San Diego. And I also felt that even though it was kind of a bigger town, it was small in terms of where
yeah,
we went to school and if we knew everybody. And growing up was so pleasant, and football games. And after the football game, only if we won, we were down at the
yeah,
beach that night. And it was a good time growing up.
yeah,
It's too bad it's not like that for our kids anymore.
yeah. Not like it was. I think about the ones that went through COVID.
Mm.
Not even being able to socialize or interact with their friends other than online, which is not, I think a lot of people have the friendships online, but they don't really know each other online. It's not the same as
Yeah,
being face to face with people.
I agree.
Anyway,
Yeah,
whole other topic.
I know. We always have lots of things to talk about.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
have to come back on and we'll catch up again.
Okay.
Thank you, Francine Rivers.
Thank
It's
you.
always a pleasure. I really appreciate you on Color Speak. And I know you've encouraged people today, especially those who have some writing in them. And, we're all supposed to tell our story, I think, in some way, some fashion. So
Yeah.
think about it. In the meantime, may God richly bless your day and may it be filled with color.